Minutes past 2 o'clock, we'll call the 1% Sales Tax Commission meeting to order. Commissioner Lee, could I ask you to provide us with an invocation?
I think, Lewis, can you hear us? You're calling me on my phone now.
He's muted.
Hang on. Make sure. Hey, Lewis, can you hear us? Hello? Okay, glad to. That's right. All right, shall we pray?
Yes, thank you.
Dear God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity to convene, that we may help guide and invest the city that we love. We pray that you'll fill this room with a spirit of collaboration, and that you bless the work that comes here, the work product. And Father, that you help us, remind us that we are here for the betterment of the overall city, the entire city, and all of its citizens. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Jonathan, everybody should have received the minutes from Commissioner Perry. I had a chance to read those earlier. I've got a copy here. I can also look at them.
I apologize for the meeting this morning.
I did get a chance to read them, so.
Now I found out where to find the video.
They're in a new spot.
Yeah, they put my big channel. I just go out and check it down. And he's always been willing to share it. I didn't think they asked for it until late Friday, and it was that couldn't get hold of it. So one his boss still asked for it till 4:30 on Friday.
And I have confirmed that Mr. Wright can indeed hear us.
Okay, good.
Yes, good afternoon. I can hear everyone.
Perfect.
Any questions about the minutes?
I move that we accept the minutes.
I'll take a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to the financial report, receipts and account balances. And we have some. Pass one of those down over there. What's that?
Normally, he gives his part first.
I have not changed anything since the last meeting. That we did make a couple of minor obligations to the last one that I've added to the list, but it didn't really affect where we were. We are still working to try to get all the other accounting cleared up between those stuff, so we know exactly where we are with the obligation. I would say, and it's noted in the minutes, that where we were talking last month about we de-obligated some money and we got that bond money, it means we have money available to obligate, but it doesn't mean we have money available in the bank because of the expenditures that were made, particularly on the Tiger grant that was over and above the obligations. And so we got obligation authority legal to obligate with what we have, what's been received for 1% money, but we don't have that much money available in the bank because of the over expenditure on the Tiger grant. I think we're still fine with where we are on obligations, and we've still got funds available to obligate, we're collecting them. And once we get through all the process, the county will know better where we are. We're still gaining $1 million or $2 million every month. So we're okay right now on that, and what we're talking about doing and what we have in the agenda planning to do is what the outcome is. So we just don't have a clear number yet as to what's receipts minus obligations is. We need to get the total receipts number and then clean up all the rest of it.
Thank you, Commissioner Perry.
Julian Caldwell for the city's financial report. Fund 173, the monthly receipts for the monthly sales tax revenue and the interest revenue total $1,227,161.24. The project expenditures for various payments on projects total $1,220,992.
I'm not questioning any of that, but just a curiosity question. And I don't know who would know the answer to anybody. I see we paid SOL $1,200 last month. I thought we were through and out of the way with them on that Woodrow Wilson project. They're the ones that hadn't done anything for 9 or 10 months and replaced them with another engineer. Is this just another bill that was, anybody know why we paid them $1,200?
Thank you. That was their final invoice for the work that they
So
had
it's-
done, and they were slow getting it to us, and we were slow paying it because we had to, go through all the machinations of
I thought at one
reopening the
time there was an argument between them and the city about what was owed. Did that all get resolved then?
Yeah, I think it's $1,200. I mean, I don't.
Was that all that was being argued over?
Yes. I think that's it.
I mean, when they quit working and they said they weren't gonna do it anymore, I didn't know what the whole fight was about. I just knew there was some.
Yeah, I mean, it was, they
Okay.
ended up finally sending the final invoice that was $1,200.
Okay.
That was it.
So we're done.
We're done with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you for providing us.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Here you go.
You're welcome.
Obligations.
That money currently
That's what I just said.
it's gonna get rolled to JP.
Let's move on to ongoing
It's
projects.
not even zone account.
We'll start with neighborhoods.
Let's get where we are. Things that are out to bid, the MLK Bridge and the Woodrow Wilson. I happen to know that
Yeah, I haven't heard yet.
MLK Bridge is out for bids right now.
Correct. It's my understanding, Dr. Chia, bids for MLK Bridge are next week on the 17th?
On the 17th, yes.
Yes. So we will advise, I'll send something out to the 1% Commission and advise whether bids come in within expected range or any variance up or down.
I think where we are on that is we approved an obligation of
I
$750,000.
think you're right.
And you
Yes,
got
sir.
500-something thousand from the ERB.
That's correct.
We hadn't been through this with this administration particularly, so just to make clear, I think our attitude has been, if the bids came in and our 750 plus that 550 was bid 3 and the bids will be in 350, y'all, the road would be to come back and say, hey, we need $50,000 more and in all likelihood, I think we'd all agree to it. Now, if it came in $600,000 above, it's what you said you discussed. But, I mean, we pulled a number out based on the estimates, all I'm saying. And-
Right. Okay.
And I know y'all want to get it under contract, but, we won't meet again until the middle of March, but you can be operating under that kind of an operating procedure, I think, is speaking for myself, and that's kind of been a habit in the past.
Thank you, Pete, and I would not, unlike previous administration, if a bid came back several $100,000 more, I'm not going to allow that bid to go forward and obligate your money. I think I have a sense of what this commission feels is tolerable or appropriate. I certainly have my own sense of that being a lawyer.
And
So
you've
I
already
think
dealt with it being over and straightened it out on this particular project.
Right, so I appreciate that guidance, and I assure you will stay within that. While I have the floor, I want to mention, we put something on the agenda the other day that appeared to obligate your money, the 1% money, let me say that. When we didn't mean to, we pulled that item, and so if you ever see anything like that on the agenda, I hope we have a dialogue with this group, that you can just reach out and ask, did you really mean to say you were spending 1% money on that? And that was an administrative error, and we took care of that, and I appreciate y'all not losing your mind before the city council meeting. But just know, if you do see something on city council agenda that appears wrong, don't hesitate to reach out to Lorenzo or myself.
Thank you.
For the sake of all Jacksonians that live here, it's our money. It's not the commission's money, public money.
The other one that's on a tight time frame, Lorenzo's the Woodrow Wilson, the west end of Woodrow Wilson, which is out for bids, going out for bids,
Yes, you're talking about from Mill Street.
Mill Street west of MLK.
Yes, we, I think the 24th. 24th, yes. 24th, yeah, it's on the 24th. We, thanks to MDOT, we expedited the process of redesigning it to get it within budget. So we had, I think we got till March to get it awarded.
March 18th or something
March
like that.
18th.
Somewhere like that.
So we have enough time, so once we receive the bids, luckily the council meetings fall after that, to tabulate the bids, get it before the council, and then we'll send a letter, hopefully to MDOT and NPO.
Let me, again, I'm gonna speak for myself, but I think kind of, we've all dealt with Woodrow Wilson, both ends of it a bunch of times. If those bids come in, and with our meeting being March whatever it is, the 13th, and we have not obligated the money for that yet, but if you need an action from us in order to get it to the city council, in order to get a contract out and get it issued and approved, we have had some telephone meetings in the past to deal with a single issue. Yeah, I think if the bids came in on the 24th and you knew what the bids were, so you knew what the matching fund ask was going to need to be at the time frame of the city council meeting and getting contracts issued, I would certainly suggest, and if our regular meeting does not fit that schedule, I would certainly recommend that you set up not a special meeting where we have to come in here for all that, that's all we're going to deal with. If you send out and said, here are the bids, here's the MPO money, here's the matching fund need, the city recommends that we do that, let's have a meeting. I'm going to suggest that we set up a special, if it's needed in order to get the time. Because this is one that the MPO money, we lose it if it's not awarded by March the something.
Agreed.
So just to put it in the process again, we're dealing with.
We thank the commission is willing to have a meeting to let us know how important it is to get that project
I
on the
think everybody wants to get that project. Almost as much as we want to get the other one out of the way. The other one was 2 years old.
Any other project updates from the city?
You want to talk about the, I think the commission awarded $350,000 for the streets around Honda. We have that in place.
High
With the
Street
county.
Business Corridor.
Yeah, I didn't know what it called, but it was like 4th Street.
That's what we're calling it today.
But we're working with the county to use their term bid to get that done, and we expedite that, and they should start.
I was going to compliment y'all on that, so if you hadn't brought it up, I was going to bring it up.
Okay.
This is down there, that area behind Whataburger and Taco Bell.
Yeah.
We approved money back in October. We talked about it in January. I ran into it lunch one day, and we talked about it again. And kind of said we wanted to get this moving because they were having the grand opening in February, and we talked about it in the January meeting. I don't know who all did what all was the process. I know that there was some contentious expressed by some of the council members, which I think we all ought to take note of, and you might want to go watch the Public Works Committee meeting on video to see the relationship with the council might not be the same as it has been in the past, because they were objecting to doing this for one area of time, but it wasn't being done to others. And I'm not speaking for myself. They fought through it and got it done, and because it didn't have a term bid, went and used the contract with the county. The county's going to do it, it's in the city of bill, and they'll pay for it with the money that we approved. But I want to thank Lorenzo and Peter, both of y'all, for, I know y'all went to bat to get that done. And I think very appropriately. I think it's a project that should have been done, needed to be done. We all agree to it. I don't know why there was objection. I won't talk anymore about the objection, but there was a lot of work done the last 2 weeks to make sure it got done timely, so thank y'all.
Well, gentlemen, we know Councilman Perry don't throw around a lot of compliments, so. Put that in the minutes.
Now then, now let's change the tone, no.
When are they planning on paying?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, next week, they're issuing the PO, AJ Construction.
Oh, well, you guys got the county one, okay.
Yeah,
Good.
and it's probably a 2 or 3 day job, it's not even,
Right.
And that grand opening
it's the 25th of February.
at the end of this month.
Doesn't get any fresher than that last fall.
Yeah, it's gonna be nice and clean. And
Still hot.
everybody down there was appreciative when they heard it. I mean, what was pushing the time was the grand opening of the new remodeled car dealership, they remodeled both of them. But Mr. Scarborough was very thankful. He called me and told me the mayor called him, he was appreciative and whatever, and so, sorry it took that kind of jumping through hoops, but I think everybody's happy with it. Now let's get the rest of those things under contract. What else we got? I put on the agenda when I was making this, and I think it'd be helpful. I've got something to help with you too. We talked last month about what was gonna be done with the bond, modernization tax bond fund.
Pete, before we do that, do we want neighborhood updates?
Might as well. Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Chad? Just want to get that
Yeah,
out of the way.
okay.
Let's see, they kind of started back work, you know, I think the last meeting we had, they hadn't really done a lot over December, January, but they started back, mainly in 1B, kind of South Jackson, Carriage Hills, Cedar Hills area. The change orders I was directed to get in motion last meeting are still in process. The contractor kind of drug his feet a little bit, getting it back to me. He doesn't have a problem with them, he's on board with it, I'm just waiting on his signature before I can send to Lorenzo and to Peter or whoever it goes to get all that worked out.
Did the cold snap satisfactory?
Not really, I think they just had other things going on that they needed to knock out.
And the contract goes to the, and we change every year.
Yeah, it does. And then with this little, then with the change order two, the little thing, it's gonna actually, will push, because he asked for 35 more days to do those 13 streets. So that pushes into January. And then imagine with 1C, with the signal, there'll be a little lead time, so probably ask for a little bit of time on that. But even though they were slow the past couple of months, they're still doing okay with time, though, when you look at the percentage of completeness with the time.
I have no objection, I know they're gonna ask for money, but I mean, time just doesn't get the change order. I thought they had an awful long time to begin with, and that big change order gave them, they got a whole lot of time. The only thing I don't want to see them do is dragging their feet and not doing the work here.
Yeah.
Running out there to work for Richmond because it's the end of the fiscal year, and they got more time, so they won't go up there and satisfy the folks over there.
Plenty of time before the end of the fiscal year.
Well, I mean,
I know they got, I'm not,
well, I'm just saying, I mean, if the city doesn't want to approve it, I mean, I can always go back to them and say, no, we don't want you to have this time. I mean,
I don't
you
want to
know,
argue with them over time on getting it done. I
Yeah.
Rather see them just stay diligent and pushing it, so. That just,
Is a lot of their timing driven by the curb work?
Yeah,
I mean, is that what's
I believe so.
sort of setting a lot of their schedule?
Yes.
but the curb work basically finished.
On 1C, the curb work's basically finished, and 1B it's not.
Okay.
And 1B is their
But there's not a lot of curb work in one thing.
still, it's a good bit.
They did, what they done yet, I'll try to, that area below Jackson State, well, all that big curb
Well,
work.
that's where they're working now, but they still have there's still a good bit to do down there.
Okay.
But yeah, no, there is a fair amount of curb to do on 1B still, which is the slower. That concrete sub on one, they have different concrete subs for each job, and that one, 1B, has been moving slower, obviously, than the sub on 1C. Anything else?
No other questions? Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Perry, back to your,
We talked about the bond. Is this, I don't know what this list is that the list of bond?
No,
Or is this
sir.
something for this council, or what's it? What
This
is
is, proposed streets by the council and administration, well, the city.
Well,
on
a
their
lot of
next-
these, are on the bond list.
Yeah, I took some of it, if you see where it says source, some of it overlap. I know in our discussion, you know, when you had that map at the, I think it was the last meeting, that's why it was so important for us to get that map so we can overlay our list with your list. I think I submitted that bond list to you.
Well,
But
I got the bond list from you last week. The list I got was real similar to the list from 2.5 years ago.
Yes,
Except for there were like 3 new streets that were on that list that weren't on it then, a couple of streets that were on it then that weren't. But otherwise, it was basically the list that was from,
yep,
from the last round of it. So I decided to get that list where we could look at it. Now, this is North Jackson, the north half of it. You got some streets up here. You got Northside Drive, Bailey Avenue, which is 2 major streets, both of which, by the way, are real good choices. You got these streets up here, which is, I don't know how to describe that area, it's just east of Big Rivers and south Northside Drive. Got this big area, which is just east of Popular Field. And this is the area I talked about in, I believe it was at the last meeting, that the old bond list had a whole bunch of streets down here. This is Provine School right here, just to orient you. So it's east and north of Provine School. Now, that was from the, I don't know if that matches anything on here, because I've not looked at this list yet. Now, I'll get to that in a second. In South Jackson, and I don't know what we did with our people that want.
The area you were trying to describe, I think that's Bel Air, School View for those people on the phone, because I was there last week, wondering what that was. Bel Air, School View, and, whatever.
Yeah, it's around Time Park,
O'Bannon, all that.
yeah. Somebody tell me what I'm doing wrong with this. I've been able to pull it, there it is. If the people are wrong. Yeah, this is the same one. It's everything, this is Capitol Street right here. So this is the zoo right here in the cemetery, so it's south of, it's on the other side of Capitol Street, south of the zoo. And it basically does everything in that neighborhood. Now, I will point out for those that are interested, because we always talk about,
Where's Ellis Avenue on that?
this is Ellis Avenue right here.
Okay, thank you.
This is Ellis Avenue. We talk about spreading money around. Let me point out, this is Ward 1. Y'all see anything in Ward 1? See anything in Ward 2? See anything in Ward 7? No, so when we talk about spreading money around, let me just point out that the bond money ain't getting spread around. I'm not complaining, that's not our issue. I will say that there's some bad streets right here that need to be done. These two. I'm not arguing with that. These 2 major streets right there, certainly. And that's some big money to do. Northside Drive from Big Rivers all the way over to
California,
Now, this is California right here.
that's what's on here.
This
That's
is
the state, yeah.
Now, this is California, and I forgot what this other one is right there. These were on the council's list too, the councilman's list too. So there are some duplicates from what was on the bond list with what the council members have submitted to us too. And so that's just for discussion, but just some of this, one of the council members' list was this one right here, which is Utah. But if the bond,
I'm gonna try to stay all the way through today's, if the bond, because I don't know where the city's gonna spend the bond money. But this is the last list I saw, and I'm operating from, and if that's where they're gonna go, then what do we do? If the bond is there, it seems more sense that Utah ought to be done with bond with all this other stuff right up there than the other. I will say this, the bond list included this part of Suncrest. This is Suncrest coming from the north side south. This end was done by the county 6 months ago. I don't know, you're paying an engineer an awful lot of money to know this. You ain't paying me, but I've driven over that street a bunch of times last month, 6 months. That's been done, so you can take that off and save that money. Use that money right there and do Utah. I don't care, I'm just saying, from Meg River south on Suncrest has been done, so take that off. But that's the north end. You got Bailey, north side, those up there, this down here, and that section there. Now, if you go on the south part of I'm beginning to learn how to do this. All right, modernization. From that list you sent me, Lorenzo, on the south side, they're not near as many streets, but let me tell you, there's some really important things being done with it, in my mind. You got Forest Hill Road from down here where it hits Terry Road up to Lake Shore. That needs to be done. You got Terry Road from the city limits down here up to Lake Shore. Again, a major street needs to be done. And you got McClure from here to Henderson all the way over to Terry Road, which I think I talked about 2 or 3 months ago and said as soon as we get through that bridge over here, that one needs to be looked at. So there's some, most of what looks like the bond money in the south part is some major streets right there. McClure stops here because we did from Henderson over here to the city limits 8 or 9 years ago, and it's in pretty shape. Lake Shore's been done, so the bond down south is there, there, and there. Plus, the little cul-de-sac over here in Willowwood and Tiki Lane. Tiki Lane was done by the county a year and a half ago. Tell your engineer to quit sending bills for doing things. They know that was done, and it's still on the list. The Tiki Lane you can take off. Deborah Dixon did that one literally a year and a half ago. There is that little cul-de-sac. If you're gonna do that cul-de-sac, do this other one right there, because we did that street right there 7 or 8 years ago, that other little cul-de-sac. But anyway, that's the, oh wait, there's a street up here and there with the bond money. This is out to Woods right up here.
What is that
That's not bond money, that's the highway, that's just in the, this is the interstate.
Oh, that's just there.
Yeah, that's interstate, that's not, it was already green on the map, I couldn't change that.
That little green part you said is in Alta Woods, or you say north of Alta Woods?
This is out to Woods right here,
The green spot.
right here. But this green line right there, this is Belvedere right there.
Oh, okay, okay, I got you.
This is Belvedere, that's McDowell.
Okay, yes.
So that's what the bond is. Now, to put that in a different perspective, I went and I took the slide I showed y'all last month and made it a little bit more messy, but trying to help. I put the bond, that bond map overlaid in this map we looked at before. And I also, this pink stuff, anything that's pink is public lands. If it's green, it's private lands. It means that those streets right there are not ours to look at. It's a shopping center or it's an apartment complex or whatever. But if it's in green or pink, but this map showing some streets on there, down streets that the city would be paving us or somebody else. And so that's why, and it also tried to help orient with what's there. But here's where you put that bond money in right there, this bond money in right there. These are the streets we're doing a contract 1C right now. These are ones that we're proposing to do with this new one that we talked about last month.
I'm sorry, Pete, the red is.
The red on here, this is the final red. This is anything we've ever done with the city or what
It's being proposed.
is proposed to be done.
So the red is anything that's been done or is on the list to be done.
It's in done, under contract right now, being done, or on the list to be done.
Got it. We've
So
made a lot of
this-
progress.
The red is, in the last 10 years, if the city's done it, currently under contract that we just talked about, or what we're proposing with this latest list to do is red. Blue, the county's done. Orange, the state's paid for, either did it themselves or paid somebody to do it.
So this includes 2A and 2B.
But this includes,
right.
this includes all of 2, all of 1, and all of 2.
Okay.
1A, B, and C, and 2A and B. 2A is everything south of McClure. 2B is everything else. 2A was what we approved in October, the south of McClure Road. And then 2B includes everything south and north. But this includes the proposed 2 that we talked about last month. It also includes in red the bond list that I have, and I'm assuming that bond list being done in total with this map. Granted, if any of it comes off, we need to revise the map and take it off. But it does show a lot better coverage than you would think.
Yeah, it looks.
There's still some deserts, not to say that they're not, but in South Jackson, how did I get there? In South Jackson, yeah, you've got a little desert right over here and here.
What area is that, Pete? Can you give me some street names?
All right, this is Woody Drive right here.
Okay.
This is McDowell. This is Woody Drive, Woodall Hill. Woody Drive is on the council list I just saw. We did it 8 years ago. I mean, there's some of the, and it's in pretty good shape compared to most other streets. I just saw it on the list a little while ago. There needs to be some look at what they're asking for compared to what has been recently done. So, I mean, we can deal with that. I mean, there's a good example up in North Jackson. I saw the list that says Michael Road. Well, that was done 8 years ago, and it's in good shape. Everything else in that subdivision we got on this list to do, except for Michael Road, and that's the one they asked for. Forget that for right now. Same thing, this kind of shows you the green and public areas and ORS was there. But,
Great view, Pete.
now, I did notice on the council list, I think, this Mayfair neighborhood down here. This is Lakeshore Road, Terry Road, Forest Hill. They had a bunch of streets in this area, which is the north end of Mayfair. You'll see that we did the main one up and down, the main one across back in 2018. We had on our list everything the southern end of Mayfair. I don't know whether, when that request came in, they were aware that we had the stuff in the southern end, or they said, well, since you're doing all the southern end, do the northern end too. I mean, I don't know what that is. We could have some conversation about that. But when I was looking at it, the southern end hadn't had any work done, and this northern end did. This was in worse shape in my view. There are some bad streets up here. I don't disagree with that. It's kind of in my mind, I like that's the next round. But that's the only thing I really noticed about, but a little bit I've seen from this list earlier. But that's where we are. So if the bond list that you sent me, Lorenzo, is the planned and intended bond list, it's reflected on here along with what would be proposed, just so that you can kind of see it all together.
There are 2 lists. There's a bond list, which I submitted to you, and we want wanted to see that this map, how it overlaid and make sure, just like you said, it didn't conflict with anything that was already done. Well,
Yeah.
the bond list, the council has already approved on that. We're
Yeah.
looking to probably go into advertising, taking things out, because this was a list, if you're correct, it was like 2 years ago, and I think this administration had like 5 streets on it. So if it was paid in between that time, we'll take it off before we go to bids. But also, I didn't know, it was a separate list, which is new for the new administration, and that's this list right here.
Okay.
As far as the new funding that the commission.
The new list that you got right here, as I understand it, you're not including the bond. This is not bond funded, is that right?
No, you may have some bond streets, you may have some of the streets that, overlap with the bond, so I just took those off, or I made
Okay,
that
so
a
the ones,
note on
the
it.
ones over here that overlap, the bond took off.
Yeah.
All right. As far as the list you sent me for bonds, there is no overlap with what we were looking at, because that's basically the same list I had before, and we'd already made that.
Okay,
When we learned at a meeting from a MAD, there was a bond fund, and there were bond streets, which we did not know. We got a meeting with Tommy Avent and got the maps and put them down and took out the conflicts then. We took out, they were gonna do one right here, we were gonna do, we said, let us do that, y'all do the west end of that. So Central Street, we kept what we already had under contract with 1C and said, why don't you do the west end of Central? And they did, that's been added. So the conflicts between the two have been already avoided and taken out. I will say one thing, the bond list from 2 years ago included a little street right here. Somebody help me with the name of it. Margaret Alexander,
Margaret Walker Alexander.
Margaret Walker Alexander, that's right. I didn't know it. When we were putting this list together, that's south, north. Hatching, north, neighborhood. When we were putting this together a couple of years ago, we had an area right here. This is Hawkins Field. This is Northwest Hills. This is Meg Gravers. This is Ridgeway, I believe. We were doing this area up here. We weren't going to do Margaret Alexander, but it was on the bond list. So we took it off of our list. For some reason, it's not on the bond list now. And so in my revision of this, when I saw that bond list and it's not there, I put it back on the list that you have in front of you.
Margaret Walker.
Margaret Walker Alexander, and frankly, I put that little,
it's on this list also.
is what?
I think it's on this list also.
Well, I don't know why they took it off the bond list. It's not my business. But I didn't put it on our list originally because it was on the bond list 2 years ago. Now that it's not there, in my recommendation of what we have in front of you here, it does have Margaret Walker Alexander, and it includes a little bit of Missouri and whatever this street is over on
Yeah, it's
the
Margaret
east
Walker.
side of Margaret Walker Alexander.
It's on here.
But that's on the city's
Yeah,
request.
Yeah.
No, that's on the council's request.
But
It's
we-
not on the bond.
But we can add it back into the,
I've got it added on the list you have in front of you that I emailed to you yesterday.
Okay,
But when I
got it.
saw it was off the bond list, I put it back on our list.
Right.
And so it's already on that list. I'm just saying that when, for whatever reason it came off the bond, it needed to be done. And since we're doing this right here, right on the other side of Ridgeway, it made sense to put it back in to this one. So just saying that that's back in there.
I also want to note on the bond, even though you may hear $40 million,
It's on 15 streets.
yeah, 15 of it is street because we have drainage issues that we're, in bridges that we're trying to handle too with the same project money.
As I said in my political statement a while ago, you did have one drainage issue over here, Ward 1, and none in Ward 7. So all the bond money is going to the rest of the city. But that's just putting it all in perspective. Now then, I was trying to take from the discussion of the bond being to show where the bonds fit in with the rest of them, but we didn't have the last meeting. But, yeah. Oh, there. That website. Anybody, I'll sit back down. I mean, I'm through talking unless somebody got questions. Good.
Thank you, Pete. I want to recognize Mayor Horn. Thank you for joining us.
I apologize for coming in late. We had a double booked on a meeting that was fairly important, preceding this one, but with the
Glad to have you.
Okay, moving right along. Phase 2 of neighborhood streets. I believe we discussed this. We discussed this last
This has nothing to do with that.
Right.
If that was done 2 or 3 months ago, this is the first I've seen this today.
Oh, okay, all right.
I don't know where this fits into anything, I've not compared it to anything.
Moving on to neighborhood streets, phase 2.
Speaking for myself, my opinion, I see and I hear this. In my opinion, I'm personally, as an individual commissioner, glad to look at any of them. We've always taken the attitude that we don't make our spending decisions on a political basis, because that's why this commission was created, was to take the politics out and put it into where streets and traffic volumes and street conditions, everything else got in there. I think any council member, the mayor, or anybody else, commissioners or Fred that walks in the room, is always welcome to make suggestions of what ought to be done, and I think council members have a good idea of what's in their district. Obviously, some of them, because some of these have been redone. But I think at this point, my opinion is, we move forward with where we are with these neighborhood streets. I'd like to make the motion that we made last month and table it. I will say that a couple of changes have been made to it, like Walker Alexander being added. There's 1 or 2 other little ones that we added that came up from different conversations. We're not out of money when we do that. And we can take this list of streets and see whether any of them should be added, could be added, either as a change order here or as another contract in and of itself. I will say, I noticed on one of these, like I said about Utah Street, in my opinion, it ought to be added to bond money, because everything else in that whole neighborhood is being done by bond, and we're not, so we ought not be doing that. I think that.
So can we do that? Can we synthesize all of the projects, and let's see where we have overlap?
Well, we have done that until we got this list.
That's what I'm saying, yeah, right.
But I think right now,
You're working on
because it takes so long to get anything from Public Works to the City Hall, and we've been talking about this since last fall, I think we move ahead with those, and we can add in any more of these. This one includes up in the Northwest Hills corner, which is just west of Meg Evans and just south of Northside Drive.
So
That way there's Michael Street on there. We did that street 8 years ago and it's in good shape. We weren't included in this list, but we included everything else in that neighborhood in this list. Right. And so the fact that somebody has recommended doing Michael, I wouldn't vote to do it today.
So your proposal is to take what we've got and start going, and then let's take a look at the list and add on as necessary, where there's not overlap or need.
My personal self, I intend to go look at all these personally and see what I think about the street.
You will.
You know, I will.
Can I ask a general question here? I see this financial update, and that's helpful for, cash balance end of, last year to right now, basically. But where are we? Do we have any?
It's a good question. From my last meeting, I had to go look it up when I was doing the minutes. Best determination I can make right now, total receipts in the Fund 173. The total receipts plus interest is about 176, 177 million. What is obligated is about 161 million. So there's about $16 million of obligation room in there. If you ignore the whole expenditure thing.
Yeah.
You know, and right now, we're still just operating on obligation room, because that's what we've always obligated on. We'll be adding $1 million every month. You know, we've got, of all those neighborhood streets, the obligation, the 161 million includes 3 million we've already obligated. That's what we did in October, so it's really a $13 million additional obligation. And we've got 16 million in there. We've already obligated for the MLK Bridge. We're gonna end up with a need to obligate money from Woodrow Wilson, $1 million or $2 million next month, but we're gonna collect another $1 million in that month. So we're still well within where we're operating with if we go there.
So it sounds like conservatively, we've got somewhere between 10 and 12 million that we can obligate. What we looked at was 9.5, I think, for the neighborhood streets.
Before we add the streets, I think we kind of kicked it up to 13 million after we add the streets.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
The 1.2 is the revenue, sales tax revenue, but we have to pay the bond payment out of that, correct?
It's already been calculated in there.
It is, okay.
There's $4 million a year just calculated in the obligation.
Gotcha.
We just calculated the obligation side.
Yeah.
Because we throw that in October every year for the whole year. Now, what you were, besides what you calculated with, we de-obligated about $5 million that's reflected at 661. We've got another $2 or $3 or $4 million still to de-obligate when we get the finances. And that kind of will offset the expenditure until the money can be moved from the other funds into there.
So to me, it's, I guess, where are we on actually like getting clarity on the finances so that we can have a much simpler approach to like, we are clean to this date, here's our revenue since that date, here's our expenditure since that date, and then we're only talking about the things that are actually obligated because they're ongoing and not
Exactly.
obligated because we haven't de-obligated.
Yes, yes.
So what, do we need to authorize money to do an audit of our own books?
Well under the way, aren't
Well, yeah, we can actually do that. In the statute, we can actually do that if we needed to. But, I mean, in my conversations with Carmen and Julia last week or so, I think, I'm gonna let y'all speak for this when I say I think it's everyone plus one. I think they're about at the point to say, here's all the questions we were asking, but then we can take and put it in the mix. I think we can clean up and know where we are with knowing how much had been received, knowing whether reimbursements that were supposed to be made to the account, the ERBO money for Colonial Circle Bridge, the ERBO money for McRaven, the BP money for Colonial, there's those money to see if they have been put in the account or they're sitting somewhere else and need to be put in the account. We'll know what we can de-obligate to get rid of a bunch of those old projects. We'll know what has been overspent on the, basically the Tiger Grant and the other little bit on there.
Right.
The question that will not be answered, in my mind, anytime soon, is when we say to the city, y'all spent, not y'all, but the city, spent $5 million over here and charged a discount that wasn't supposed to be, and you got this other $500,000 over here. I don't know when they will be in a position to be able to say we can clean that up on their part. So we'll still be out dealing with an obligation difference of what's in there. But if you move us to a cash flow like I used to have to do in my business, I knew what I owed and I knew what I had and I knew what I had to pay this month. We're still always cash. We probably have $20 million sitting in the bank. I don't know, but because we got a $20 million contract over here, we only spent $6 or $7 million on. So I mean, we always cash flow fine right now. I'm sure the mayor would like to see that for the rest of all his budgets. So I
I think we're probably a month or so away from being able to get to the point that you just asked about liking to be, which would be where we always like to be.
Yeah, okay.
And we haven't been there since 2018.
I'm sure it's a ton of work, and I don't mean to sound impatient.
They were good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm always like.
Yeah.
I hate having to keep track of 14 things in my mind. It's like, well, we got this, but we
Well,
don't have
no.
that, we do have this, but that, where, you know, we just,
And we do need to go back
What
and
do we
ask
got?
one question on that would help, about where we are with closing out that bond account, the 157 account, since we don't have any more projects, and spending the money out of there. I mean, we still got to reconcile the difference, but
yeah.
there's money in that account that we need to spend, so we won't pay the $1,000 a month in bank fees. And they were gonna look at the best way to go about doing that. Then all we have to do is clean up the 173 account for all this old stuff, and then we can know, here's what we received, here's what we're obligated, here's what we spent, and we'll know where it is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess we're 2 months away from that. Is that optimistic?
Yes.
It's optimistic. Well,
Extremely so.
I think we're getting close with what was outstanding, that we can then put it together, and we still have some work to do with it, but it's a lot closer than we were.
And y'all are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Once we, come up with that amount that we have for the tire grant, we can,
Yeah,
we'll be able to
Yeah.
make some decisions on
when we
that.
get the fiscal year 20 statements, that's what's holding everything up right now. Is fiscal year 20 is when they change munis, whatever. And we have information for the first half of the year, don't have the information for the second half of the year of the new system. And that keeps us from knowing what all the balances are before and after that.
Well, guess what, Pete? You should have everybody up this week, literally.
Well,
That's great.
that
Now, I know you're coming back with some more questions.
That, yeah, but that at least gets us where we can know where we're working
Right,
from.
Yes,
Yeah.
and you asked for projects, so that's what held it down.
The projects is part of,
Right,
yeah, and I know that.
and I'm saying, you know, because it only shows like APEC or whatever, so we had to go back and dig for those projects, so
Yeah.
this morning, we almost cleaned it up, so I'm gonna pray by the time I get back up there, a
Good.
little later, I got working, that she has wrapped some of that
All
up.
right now.
Good.
Good. Great.
The other-
Do we, I think what, Pete, what you said, and I agree that we look at these streets, make sure we don't have any ones that overlap with ones that have been done already by the county or already accounted for in other dollars. And I guess we can reconvene over this next.
But yeah, I mean, I can tell you real quickly, looking at some of these, Presto Lane is on that list we've sent out.
Right. I mean, Pete, we don't have to chase them all, but we
There's
got
several,
you. Yeah.
there's several that are on there. There's a bunch of, there's one more that, a whole other category I think we need to talk about, some of which is on here. But before we decide what's on here, we need to look at the rest of it, so.
See if it's covered in some of the.
No, it's not covered. We got, it's some major streets. Well, let me just go ahead and say, we got West Street and Livingston on here. We also need to be looking at Ellis and Ridgewood and Forest Hill and, you know, a bunch of others of those major streets. And so how do we decide which ones to go there? Besides what's on here, there's some others that have been raised that we need to look at.
I agree.
That's what's on this agenda is the
arterial.
streets, so it could be a whole nother item. Yeah.
We had talked about West Street in Livingston. It was like 3 million. And,
Yeah. But
we were taking those off with like the neighborhood street, but
Yeah.
when we got the list, we saw how big it was.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. They're on this list, and so right now I did not haven't even thought about the West and Livingston's.
Okay.
But and you know, I would argue the south end of West Street certainly is one that if you looked at north end of Livingston is. I'm not sure that the north end of West is a priority to me, speaking my own vote, than Ridgewood. When I look at the amount of traffic on it and the condition of the roads, and I think that's a discussion that's got to be looked at about the whole process. But and so West and Livingston is on this list, but it's not part of what we're looking at from the neighborhood side. You're right, because it's $3 million apiece, and they need to be looked at along with Ridgewood and Old Camp, depending on whether Old Camp gets MPO money. Ellis, Cooper Road. I'm glad to see McRaven was on the bond because it certainly needed it. But you know. Yes, that's what I was suggesting, Jonathan, is that we look at everyone that's on here and see where, and some of these, we might ought to say, hey, yes, that's, and it's right there beside what we're doing, let's add it into, as a change order with what we're doing, because we're not gonna be issuing contracts right away.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And we can certainly add some of these streets into what we're looking at there, when we see what condition they are and how they fit with the rest of it.
I mean, some of what this, I mean, you know, often on a board, you've got to kick stuff down to committees, so the whole board doesn't have to discuss everything every time. And what we end up, I feel like needing here is some just focused time, 2, 3, 12 hours, to just grind through some of this information and come back with a plan, with a paving plan for Jackson. Like that's overwhelming in one sense, but it's like there's council wishes to synthesize, there's 1% commission wishes to synthesize, there's what funding sources should be going into some of these things. Like when I look at Northside, that to me says that's an LPA project. It's simple, it's clean, there's no sidewalks, there's no ADA issues. Go out for $8 million of LPA money and only spend $2 million of city money.
Which is the reason we've never looked at Northside, but the city now has put it on the bond. I would agree with you.
Which
ought to be an LPA project. But we don't control the bond money.
I have no opinion about the bond funding. I just, when it shows up on a list that we're looking at, you know, there's lots of projects that just don't fit very well in LPA, and they're frustrating and they're too small for the process. But something where you're laying 9,000 tons of asphalt in straight runs, like, I don't want to spend $3 million of 1% or even city money. Let's spend the Fed money on that.
Let me speak to that for a second and explain a bitch. LPA, the county got LPA money to do Raymond Road, from the city limits all the way up past Plummer Circle. The county's engineer for that is Tommy Avant with IMS. The city's engineer for the bond money is Tommy Avant with IMS. I was driving on Raymond Road 2 months ago, and they had gone up to Willowwood and stopped, and then they started up at Forest Hill and started again. And I was in Deborah Dixon's office the next day because she called me over there, and I said, why the hell are they not doing this other section? And she said, what do you mean? And she called Wanda Evers, the supervisor for that section, and she came over to the group. And Deborah and Wanda got Tommy Avant on the telephone, on the speakerphone, while I'm listening to it. So this is first-hand knowledge of her here. And Wanda said, why aren't you doing that section in my supervisor district 4? Said, the city wants to do that. And I said, what? And he said, no, the city's going to do that section, so we're not doing it over here. Now, he's in a car in Copiah County with the LPA engineer while we're having this conversation. And I said, Tommy, the city ain't doing that, and I damn sure ain't going to approve spending 1% money on it when you could get free money from LPA that the county is going to do. And Wanda tore into him because she said, you told me something different last night. And she tore him and said, I want that put back on. He said, well, it's too late, I can't put. And she said, you better figure out a way to put it on. And they did put it back on. It was on the bond list that came to me to do that section with bond money that the IMS engineer for the city told the IMS for the county that the city was going to do it. Yes, it should be LPA money, but somewhere the coordination between where this is being done needs to be done. That would make me mad, really mad, when I saw IMS saying the city wants to do that section when the state would have paid for it. Now, it got cleaned up, but only because I ironically happened to be in Deborah's office the next day, and I asked her, and she called Wanda over there, and Wanda said, get him on the phone. And she straightened it out. But otherwise, the city be spending bond money to do 1.5 miles of Raymond Road that LPA was going to do. That's your engineer, that's also the county engineer. Just to put it out in the open, and I'll stand behind it on the video because I was on the call when it happened.
I believe that someone named Green is doing the county's work.
Tommy Avant was the one doing that part of it for them. I mean, they got 3 different engineers. They got IMS, they got Wagner doing some stuff. That particular project, the the LPA work, IMS was doing. And Tommy was the one that was dealing with that particular project at that time. I mean, and I like Tommy, he's a friend, I'm just saying that I jumped all over him and said, that's not right, and the city doesn't want to do that if the county can get it paid for free. It's the same thing that happened with the city in the last administration when they went and told the county, we wanted to build a Smallwood Bridge and the Shaw Road Bridge when the county was fixing to pay for it. The idea of saying, we want the city to do it, if somebody else is going to, I'm agreeing with you. If you can get Northside Drive done with LPA, we ought to be doing it. If the county's willing to replace a bridge, we ought not be stepping in and saying, no, we want to do that.
Yeah, and, you know, I'm not privy to a lot of those conversations, and I guess my only point was, I wonder if we could have a collaborative effort so that the only time we're talking about this is not in here. And so we can have, I mean, that's when, on other boards that I'm on, that's what we try to do, is we push that work to the committees, let the folks who are ready to grind it out for, 4 hours, that's fine, we can do it whenever. Start early, finish early, let's go and get it done, and then we can bring something that's more collaborative to this, so we don't discover something that's
Spend
not.
meeting time doing it.
Yeah, two different.
I agree with this list of streets that we got in front of us now. We brought up in November, discussed in December, discussed in January, finally got the bond list 2 weeks ago, and now we're looking at it, and now we're getting this list today. It would be a lot easier, yes, if we had it along to be working with it. I
Mr.
agree
Chair,
with you.
following up on Commissioner's suggestion, certainly staff here at the city would be willing to work within a smaller group of the overall commission to grind through. I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just gotta sit down and roll up our sleeves, make sure all the wants and requests and lists complement each other. And we should be complimenting efforts not just with the county, but with CCID as well. So if y'all as a commissioner are inclined to do that, I'm saying as CAO, I will make myself available to work with you. I'm sure Director Anderson will make himself available. And we would bring a synthesized city position to those discussions, and then we can figure out how to synthesize with the county and CCID.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Shortly.
And this is not 1% policy, but I do feel pretty strongly about this as an engineer. I would love for there to be a discussion as we're working on some of these things about road diets pretty much everywhere in the city. I just looked up the traffic counts on North Side. It does not need to be a 5-lane, and it sure doesn't. A 4-lane road actually has like 2 lanes in either direction, has no more capacity than a 3-lane road. 1 lane in either direction with a 2-way left turn lane.
So,
And that frees up, just let me do my spiel. And then, so even if that's too complex right now or whatever, I know personally where I live, Northside, Ridgewood area, I know you could road diet a bunch of that and have a lot of space for folks who are walking. I drive to the library board meetings over at Margaret Walker Alexander Library over there on Ellis Avenue. Runs north and south right from 20 heading north there. There's never a time there that I am not seeing both handicapped and regular walking people using a ton of that right of way, except they're walking in the lanes, because if they're not in the lanes, they're in people's front yards walking. There is no pedestrian infrastructure there, and there's nobody driving on the road either. I drive over that at rush hour, and it is so sparse traffic. It could absolutely go from 5 lanes to 3 lanes with generous right of way for pedestrians. And the people who are out there, we're not talking about bougie folks in spandex like me on the weekends riding a bike for exercise. We're talking about folks who don't have another way to go to the grocery store from their house. You did a food desert thing, and I'm so sorry, this spiel went a little bit longer than I was hoping, but they did a food desert thing, and as part of that food desert study, they talked about how many people don't have vehicles in their families. And there are parts of the city that are the census blocks where 30 to 40% of the people don't have vehicles. And so that's really the place I think we can get a lot of bang for the buck. On road diets, places, they're just not, they're hollowed out partly. And so the people that do live there, you don't have the need for all that road infrastructure. So just something as we're looking at it, I'd love to see that and would support that 100% if we could. So.
well, we appreciate the spiel. Mayor Horn's already addressed that via the Jackson Rising efforts. he is big on road diets and reimagining what our roads look like. It may not be in the smaller or shorter version of Jackson Rising, but in the longer document, they talk about all that. So I think that's something, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I can tell you, that's something we're already discussing internally as a result of the Jackson Rising efforts. And I think Mayor Horn and this administration would welcome those discussions because we've already started looking at that.
And I will also say that besides potholes or the need for resurfacing, the issue that average folks bring to me is the need for striping. At night, we have an issue that was interviewed the other day about streetlights, but on a lot of streets, it's dark and the striping is gone. It's very difficult to navigate on some of those streets. And so if there is some surplus, you are throwing all these numbers around, I don't know what's in the bank. But I would think that any surplus, a portion of that would be dedicated towards striping. Because it's a real problem, especially for the elderly.
Mayor, can I make a suggestion? I hear the same thing about striping. I'm not sure that we can legitimately spend 1% money just to do striping. But I can tell you that you can spend modernization tax money to do striping. So if there's a street on there that's gonna cost $50,000 that we could easily put over to 1%, we could do that and free up some modernization tax money. If we agree to pull that street off your bond money, and then you agree to say that they would spend that bond money to do modernization, because I think you probably could use that money, either, not necessarily bond fees, but just a regular modernization tax you have, and saving money by not doing a street that we could do, that we can do a street, but we can't do just maintenance on the striping of the street.
But we stripe everything we pay.
We stripe the big ones that we pave. I don't know if the little small neighborhood, two-lane street, it's just, but the major ones we do stripe if they need it. And I hear the striping issue too. I've been trying to figure out how we do it. My suggestion is let's figure out some swaps so that you can do it. I mean, High Street right now needs to be striped. I can tell you it needs to be striped. That's better than mine. And there's a bunch of others like that too. I think we could work out a way to get there.
Yeah, take a look at it.
Yeah. Road diet, one of the ones that's on the road diet. I know we're jumping off the other, but that's the way to put it on there since it's part of this overall discussion. This. Did I get that there? Oh, Jackson. On that list that you could send out is West Street from down here, George Street up here to Mays. This is Livingston from Woodrow Wilson up to North Side. That's on the list. You also got Livingston up here on this end. You've got Ridgewood over here, and you've got Old Canton over there. Hopefully Old Canton, the county gets some MPO money, we can deal with that. But if they don't, you know, somebody want to argue with me about Old Canton versus Livingston, we can have that discussion. I don't know which one has the highest traffic count, whatever, and where to go, or is it the worst condition. But it's certainly in the discussion I think we're going to have. You also have, this is Ellis. Yeah, Ellis, Main Street, I don't know. Let's look at the traffic counts and conditions, whatever. There's still, my point is there's still some principal arterial streets that we haven't dealt with during those first 7 or 8 years when we focused all our efforts on arterials that need to go there. One big one to me, and we discussed here in this meeting for years, is this little section of Capitol, and turn that back into a 2-lane. It's 2-lane here and it's 2-lane there, but there's 4 blocks of one-way, not 2-lane, 2-way.
which is certainly a road to act, because it's 5 or 6 lanes wide. We've got some engineering work that the city's been doing, paid to do that. But I think that part of arterial needs to be looked at. So when we're looking at that list, and I'm not saying anything's wrong with what's on there with those, with Mays or Livingston, but in looking at the arterials, you know, in the South Jackson, you got Henderson, which we talked about a little bit at the last meeting. We're still in discussion with Byram about whether they would split the cost of that part that splits here. This is McClure Road right there. You got Forest Hill from where the bond money was stopping at Lake Shore up to this point where it's been done. And you got Terry Road. So in this discussion that you talk about, Paul, and looking at it and looking at that list, just because there's some streets on there, we got to remember there's still some others that need to be looked at too, and how do you figure what goes where and where the priority is and whatever. And I just throw that out because when I saw these on there, I said, yep, well, we talked about Ellis, we talked about Capitol, we talked about these others, Ridgewood, that they all have to be thrown in the mix too. I just,
Awesome.
that's only for discussion, that's,
Yeah, one quick question.
yeah.
So what's the total that we are looking at? I know it's like 12 to 13 million. Is that plus, and plus the 5 million that's been de-obligated? So it's around
Now,
17?
you can't mix the two things together. 5 million has been de-obligated, just means that's available to spend.
Yeah, 5 million, okay.
We de-obligated, that means it frees it up where we can spend it. We couldn't spend it before because it was tied up on a 2018 issue.
Okay.
The question is, we have, if there's been 177 received, which is about right, and 161 obligated, there's $16 million that we can obligate. There's another, but that includes, that reflects the 5 million that we de-obligated, because there's only 161 obligated. I've already subtracted that 5 million off.
Okay.
So the 161 de-obligated number includes that action we took of de-obligating the 5 million.
Okay.
So there's 16 million, round number, I think that's a conservative, might be as much as 17, but 16 to 17 million dollars available to be obligated in Fund 173 as of today.
Okay.
We could probably de-obligate some more, but we hadn't done it yet, so we just know it's there.
Okay.
Why
Thank you.
would a project be
Yeah.
de-obligated?
But,
Why would a project be de-obligated?
okay, what happens there, the obligation is not anything that the financial department deals with. It's purely something in here. If they come in here, if the city comes in here, if we do it, say, okay, we want to do Woodrow Wilson, and the estimate right now is it's gonna cost $1,385,000 to do it. We might obligate $1.5 million because the $1,385,000 is an estimate, and it's a unit cost, so we might obligate $1.5 million. When all the bills come in, it costs $1,392,000. That means it's $108,000 to de-obligate it. We approved this much, it costs this much, we're de-obligating the unspent funds. Because our records show we approved $1.5 million, we spent $1,392,000, so we got to de-obligate $108,000 so we can spend it somewhere else. We have de-obligated 1 or 2 projects because the city decided. we're not gonna go forward.
The pricing came back too high.
Yeah,
And
the
we're like,
project came
no.
back too high. We approved money for a bridge out on West Haven Road, and then they decided they didn't, there's actually, turned out it was just a lot of stuff they were thinking about doing it, when we finally chased it down. You know, for some reason, they decided not to proceed with the project. But most of the time, it's because we obligate X amount of money, and it costs Y, and it's the difference, and we need to clean up the paperwork. It doesn't affect what's in the bank or what Jenny and them worry with. It's purely a, what we had internal commission, administrative thing about, we can spend, we can approve spending money up to what we have to receive, and so that's what we obligate.
I have a question. On the obligation summary sheet that you provided in December, it says it was updated through September. Do you have?
It's actually, I didn't change that in the top right corner, that's updated through December.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I'll look at that one, make sure you've got the right one, but I think that I need to clear out that header up there on top of that.
Okay.
I think, updated, if it includes those things, if it includes the $3.5 million for Neighborhood Street Phase 2, which we approved in October, ought to be towards the end of it somewhere, this update. Probably includes the de-obligations we made. Okay, my question is, despite all this conversation we had, what Paul was suggesting, what everybody else is saying, do we want to wait on holding up on approving any of these others that we've talked about until we do that, or move from there and have that conversation about all these others that popped up since then?
You mean this list?
Yeah. No, the list that
We're already working on.
the list that's on that map, what we sent out in, what we talked about in October, December, January, and the list.
I thought we had already moved, we had already.
No, I made a motion on that last month, and we tabled it till this month so we could see how it matches with the bond fund.
Okay.
We
I think we
tabled,
need to be paving
I think we need to
as
be
much as
paving.
we can. I mean, the money needs to be being put to work, in my opinion.
And right now, my frustration is, we put money to work in October, and there's nothing that's happened about getting it from the fifth floor up here across the street to where there's a contract being issued, whatever. I want to say, here's the money. What's it gonna take to get the work done? Because that's my frustration is,
Yeah, so I'm comfortable making a motion that we go ahead and proceed with what's already approved, with the caveat that we're gonna also take a look, at this list for next round.
if you could not make the caveat part of the motion, but just, that's
Yeah,
understanding.
that's fine,
The
yeah.
motion be clean, we approve this much money, move forward and vote. Certainly, I think we need to be looking, there'll be another round.
Yeah, we're gonna run out of time here,
Yeah.
so I move that we go ahead, with the approval.
We have a motion and a second, any further discussion?
How much will be left, I guess, after this, how much is this
I
round?
think,
All right, we approved 3 million or 3.5, and we talked about this time another 13. You know, how much is left? You know, there's a month, we've already approved the money for MLK, there's another $1 million that's not included that, you know, it increases by $1 million every month. De-obligate some more, you know, there's a few $1 million still left.
Yeah, but I think we said 16 million, you just obligated, well, it's on the motion to obligate 13
Yeah.
million. So it really leaves $3 million
Yeah.
for our list.
Not, for whose list?
The one that we proposed.
Yeah, but who's, you know, which we got today. And some of these are on the bond, some of these have already been done, some of these you're saying with these arterials that we're gonna take off. You know, some of these have been done. So until we can see those, you know, and how do they rank with the others? I don't know, because we hadn't seen them.
So they gotta be ranked, and then
They gotta be looked at.
then they're gonna be compared to all those different things you
And
just
see
said,
where
and
they
then we can.
fit, some of them fit with what we're already doing.
So are these primarily local streets? Is that what is
Mhm.
really on, like, other than the north side and the Meyer and all, I mean, like, I know that, but a lot of these are local streets, so I mean, my impression of what has happened is that, Pete, you looked at almost every street in the city
Yeah.
at this point, so you probably, I mean, I'm not trying to say Pete's the
Well, I
street
don't-
gatekeeper, I'm just curious, like, you probably looked at a lot of these streets, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, let me
But-
just name
but
one of them.
Didn't we start this as a neighborhood street paving
If
program?
this is neighborhood street paving program.
So you wouldn't do a north side drive or an old Camp Road, and
That's right.
it's not a neighborhood street.
But I guess my question was like, most of these do seem to be neighborhood
Yeah,
streets.
right.
Let me just, Gunda, which is only about the 10th west from this, that's one of the worst streets in Jackson. And you ain't gonna fix it for $300,000, because you gotta basically rebuild that street. Just because you can look at the distance of it, drive it, you'll find out you ain't fixing it for $300,000. But there ain't nothing there except for 7 burned out houses and the growth up on both sides, 12 foot high, and piles of trash. When I see the what's the word, the light removal work that the mayor's administration ain't at, if they fix that area down there, I think we talk about fixing the street, but right now,
I would abandon that street if I were the city. Go down there and drive it. I mean, I don't know who put it on here, I can't talk to them. It's a terrible street. It needs to be either abandoned or totally rebuilt, but I've been on that street. And I'm all for fixing it once I see.
Well, as part of the cities,
Yeah.
we have got to resize the city.
Yeah.
We have too many streets, too much infrastructure that has to be maintained when there are issues of, just like you talked about, 2 houses on the street, and there's blight everywhere else, and there's overgrowth, and there's somebody living there. And so as part of our exercise this fall, the Jackson Rising aspect, we have, that is one of the priorities that this, we cannot take care of, we got 113 square miles, and we don't have 113 square miles with the people. We lost 45,000 people, no, 60,000 people since 1985. And we've got to figure out, and as part of this evaluation of these streets that are on this list, there are probably a few more, like what you're talking about, that are on the list to be resurfaced. So that's not something we can do overnight, but it's certainly one of our priorities of looking at, how do we what do we let go back to the woods? What do we let turn into a park? What do we turn into an urban garden? That's got to be a part of the evaluation that we do, so that we don't continue to commit these resources that we can't take care of.
Mayor, can I sit here and praise you for saying that, because that's what needed to be said. Gundy Street, and I'm not talking about it, but it might be one of those that needs to be abandoned because you can't fix them all, and just because it's on this list. I drove on it last week, folks. I didn't think I was gonna get my car through it. It was so bad and so terrible. But I also realized I was in this jungle and trash. And so I'm not going to talk about fixing Gundy Street at this point. Clean it up, we might, but you gotta rebuild it.
Well, so to Jonathan's motion that was passed, we're gonna take these and
I think we take these and
roll
look at
them
it and
into
figure
all
out.
these layers of discussions,
And that
and they're
makes it a
gonna
whole
come
lot
behind Chad, the next group.
And it has a whole lot easier to do with the attitude that this administration has that says you can't fix them all if we don't need to fix them all.
And we can certainly address some of these like we've done in the past, adding streets in.
Oh, yeah, but there's certainly some on here that ought to be added to what we're looking at right now.
Or there may be a street that feeds into Gundy
Yeah,
Street. that-
yeah,
that
there are.
needs to be
There are a
added.
couple that feed into it that probably need to be fixed. They turn up and they go over to Belvedere, I believe. But it's, yeah.
Excuse me. So as you all look through this, and I know he's gonna go through this very thoroughly. And for the ones that don't overlap, you know, we still have the 6 million out there. So are we able to,
What, 6 million?
the 6 million for the bond, 157,
157.
not the 35 million? So.
We have 6 million, we think, in the, I really don't know what we have there with, there's $6 million in the bank account, but here's where the problem with that is. We really don't have all that 6 because it's there because some bond, we obligated $35 million of 157. We only spent 29 million because you paid for Terry Road out of 173. You paid all that stuff that Fidela said we're reconciling. You paid a bunch of 157 projects out of 173, so they don't show up in that $161 million obligation over there, even though the check's been written out of it. So I don't know how much of that 6 million. I know there's $6 million we need to spend because it's in a tax exempt bond account and it should have already been spent.
Correct.
So we need to spend it, but I don't know that it's available to spend because when you pay for Terry Road $2 million out of 173 that was obligated out of 157, that doesn't show up in the 173 obligations. So I don't know that we have $6 million to spend. I know we need to expend that cash out of that account.
That's reconciling it.
We need,
Still know how much it is.
at this point, we just need to get it spent. We need to pay current bills out of that so we don't get in violation of the tax exempt statutes. But it doesn't mean that that's free money. It doesn't add to the
We're not saying it's free money.
Yeah.
And the points of, I mean, the over 2 million for the 150, was it Capitol Street, is he stating? Did you say Capitol Street? Did you
I
say
said Terry Road.
Terry Road, that we're
But there's also the Mill Street Bridge, there's also the Terry Road Bridge. There's several projects that were paid out of 173 that should have been paid out of 157.
Are they on my list that you said? For, like, because I know I did address 2 or 3 of them, so I guess.
Yeah, I think they all are, I mean,
Okay.
but we
Why
were,
don't you, the obligation list, right, for 157, you had a list.
the
of-
157, we approved obligations
Yeah.
of $36 million, but we only spent 29 or $30 million. So I know that Terry Road Bridge didn't cost as much as we thought it was, so there's some savings there. So we will pick up some money out of that. But we don't pick up the whole $6 million just because there's cash in that bank account. It actually was spent over here out of this
It
bank
really should be
account.
in the other.
Right.
Do you
yeah,
have an obligation sheet for 157?
I do. If you don't have it, I'll send it to you.
Yes, please.
I'll send it to you.
But you were gonna make a point.
Well, I guess my, right. So, my point.
Your point
After
was
we
getting-
figure out what should come from 173 to 157, and we can come back and give that number, and whatever is left, if you see some streets are not duplicated or so, can we use that?
Oh,
Wait, not automatically, not just
No,
because,
no.
not just because some city councilman put it on the list, doesn't mean it would get funded. But if it's one street that ought to be funded, certainly we can use it for
Yes,
that.
what I'm saying is, after you go through your,
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the point that I was
Yes.
making.
Yeah.
I don't think that, I think Commissioner Perry opened up. I think we look at all of these streets, but let's definitely take out the ones that have already been obligated through other funds. Ones that were inadvertently put on the list and they've been paved the last couple of years.
Right.
Let's clean up the list, but I think where I'm at as a commissioner is paving season is beginning. Let's go ahead and start paving and let's work this list and then we'll approve those two.
And we can keep on that.
Yeah.
There's several of you, Dorgan Street that's on there. It was paved 8 years ago. It's not the best street in town. I drove on it 2 weeks ago. But it's gonna be hard to convince me to pave Dorgan Street when that street was paved by us with 1% money 8, 9 years ago, and do it again right now just because Joe Blow's brother lives on it, or whatever reason it got on this list. Yeah, it's been patched 2 or 3 times, just like Graymont has, which was paved at the same time. But it's very drivable. It's hard to make that a priority. But there are plenty of them there that should be. And so I think we've got to look at them and say, street by street, just like we did when we got here, what needs to be done? And where does it fit in the priority side? And remember that besides that list, we've got, I think West Capitol gonna cost $2 or $3 million to fix. Now, which one's more important where? I don't know. That's a discussion we've got to have. I've heard everybody saying, I think it came from the Jackson Rising side, that we need to fix that section of Capitol Street because all of a sudden you hit and have to turn it over on a minute and go back up to get it. And it's also rough. I mean, two-way in that street to me is a hindrance to maintaining downtown Jackson State, that whole transition right through there. But it's gonna cost money to do.
I just want it to be separate from phase 1A, B, C.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
maybe it'll be a D, I don't know. But I
Yeah, we're
just,
going to
you know,
phase two.
because
Well,
it just
actually-
needs to be separate
No,
from.
actually, 1A, B, and C, we're through with A, B's, and
Okay.
C's now.
Okay.
What we're doing in this motion, Jonathan, if you copied the motion we made last month and table,
Yeah.
is we're combining 2A and 2B and just calling it 2. Everything we approved in October, and since nothing started on it yet, the reason we went 1A, B, and C was to get started with 1A while they were still doing the engineering. Right now, we ain't started any engineering, so everything we're talking about is right now phase 2, and it's not an A, B, or C. Now, when you divide it up into chunks or segments or whatever, we'll have to account for it that way, but right now, we're just talking about a neighborhood street phase 2.
Want to vote on the motion?
Is that, go ahead.
It's seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, Commissioner Wright.
So what is actually the next step at this point? We've now obligated, so
The
now
next
we need to
step
get
is-
an engineering
The
gate?
next step is the city, I'm assuming Mr. Anderson and his massive staff have to go out and somehow get this under contract.
Now, you tell us what that takes, I don't know.
Well, we're gonna look at the consultant, and we're also looking at term bid. I think term bid, is what you said, some of these streets will be done with term bid. So we're looking at accommodation of both of them, so we're gonna talk internally and see, the next step. So you should probably see something on the agenda soon.
How soon is soon? Because we heard that in October about that when we approved back then, so how soon is soon?
Uh,
I know you
No,
said,
at least
I know you're
for
sitting there with two
probably
bosses,
March.
one on each side of you while I'm asking this question. 'cause that's
yeah,
okay.
March, I would say.
I mean, I want to see it done for no reason. I think people will be happy. I know we got money in the bank and it's drawing a little bit of interest. I think it would make people a lot happier with this new administration if they saw streets out there being paved. And we're sitting here saying, there's 300 streets we're fixing to pave. I think it'd make people happy. I just don't want to see it sitting, because I've seen the 45 or 50 streets we approved in October that we still not got a consultant, we've not got an engineer, we've not got a term bill, we've not got anything. It's just sat there. I realize you got so much,
Okay.
and a fire hose blowing in your mouth all the time, but I mean, I'm just saying, we approved that $3 million for all those streets down there in October, and it's now February.
When you guys did 1A or 1B, what was the time lapse from engaging Neil Schaefer to the time the project was ready to be allowed?
Okay, I tell you, it's good and bad. We came up with a bunch of streets, we brought in a bunch of streets, and we said, let's get it underway. And because there's a bunch of, the engineer, they drew circles, they made 3 faces. They said, let's get 1A underway right now. They got the consultant working on it. And it got underway, the consultant worked on it in September. They got the contract issued at my time doing the paving. They got the contract issued by November, and they started paving in February. 1B and 1C, they didn't get the contract until November of the next year. We lost a whole year before 1B and 1C went to the consultant. And my drink a little bit of time on this. And so there's a year and a half later getting started. The idea was to do it all at once. So it was, the first part was very quick, and the second and third part were very, very slow.
I was just trying to manage expectations for, once it does go to a consultant, are we talking about 3 months to turn around with a project-ready set of documents? Ish?
It's probably
Okay.
that. I
Three.
mean, I can't speak for,
Let's just say it was Neil Schaefer.
3 to 4 months.
Yeah, okay. That's
How
fine.
many streets?
Well, if you did the whole thing right now is, when I say streets, some of those 256 streets are short cul-de-sac. You know,
I think it was 45 miles or something like that.
yeah, it's all total with the whole thing. This was 56 miles, before that was about 10, so it's probably 75 miles for 300 different sections. Most of it does not have curb and gutter. A large part of it does not have curb and gutter, which should speed it up.
Good. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
I'm not sure you don't have anything more.
No. I love Who Shot John.